What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. And in today's video, we're going to keep it real simple. I'm going to make a beat from scratch. I'm going to let you guys follow along and make your own beat. Let's get into it. All right, so let's get started. So all the tracks I have open so far, I have this mic track so you can hear me talk. I have this track labeled kick, which I have my drum rack in. I have this bass tab where I have my bass sound. I have a synth tab, and I have a piano tab. I have the kick and bass in a group. That way, if I want to add any effects to everything at once, I can do that through this tab. If I'm moving too fast in the video, just click pause to set your tracks up, do whatever you need to do. Again, to open a new track, you can just right-click out here, insert an audio or a MIDI track. If you're using a MIDI controller, you can create a new MIDI track, and you can add in any sounds you want from the Sounds tab, and you can also insert drum racks from the Drum tab. Let's get rid of this. So I'm going to come over here to the Kick tab, and I'm going to lay down a beat. First things first, we're going to set that metronome. I have mine set to 100 BPM, so I'm going to click play, and we're going to record a quick sample. All right, so I've got a little sample recorded. The first thing I'm going to do is get the loop that I want. So I'm going to drag this back, and now I'm just looping one bar so I can get rid of the rest of these notes. So let's go through here and adjust the timing of everything. So now we've got everything in time and a 1-bar loop. Let's give it a quick listen. From this point, I'm going to separate this kick, this snare, and this hi-hat. So all I'm going to do here, I'm going to right-click up here on the kick track, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. I'm going to color these and rename them. I'm going to name this one snare, and I'm going to name this one hi-hat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this clip in the snare tab, and I'm going to delete everything except the snare. So I'm going to get rid of these hats, and I'm going to get rid of this kick. And in the hi-hat tab, I'm going to do the same thing. In the kick track, get rid of everything except the kick. Now I can manipulate each one of these tracks individually. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these loops so I can get a 4-bar loop. All you have to do is right click here, click duplicate loop, and it will duplicate it exactly how it's laid out. I'm going to do this with all 3. And from here, I can change up the pattern in each bar. So I'm going to draw in some extra notes here. So what I want to do with the snare is on the 4th bar, I want to add in some kind of drop, some kind of roll with the snare. I'm going to drag this back, and I'm also going to adjust the velocities of the rest of the snares. Now let's come over here to our hi-hat. Let's make a little bit of a different pattern with the hats. If I like the pattern that I make in the first bar better than I like the pattern in the rest of these, all I have to do is just delete these notes. I can drag this back to 2, and I can duplicate this out. To make it even easier, I can undo that. I can do the velocities how I want in just the first bar and duplicate it that way. Let's duplicate this. Instead of keeping that same tone the whole time, why not change some of these to an open hat? And depending on the sound you have in your kits, you can get really funky with this. So as you can see, we've barely just gotten started. All we've done is a drum beat, and we've already got a pretty cool little hip-hop beat laid out. So from here, we can add some bass, we can add a synth, we can add a piano, some kind of melody to it, whatever we want to do. Or we can keep messing with the sounds in our kick, snare, and hi-hat tabs. We can change the kick sound, the snare sound. Since we already have it laid out, changing the sound would be as simple as dragging in a new sound into your drum kit. So if I come over here to drums, click this tab, and go to kick, and say I find a different kick that I like, All I have to do is drag that in here, and now this kick sound is going to play. So instead of spending countless hours finding the sound first, just lay a beat out, and then you can go through and mess with your sounds. It makes it so much easier. Another invaluable tip for Ableton, and this goes for most software, video editing, music editing, it doesn't matter. Control Z, undo. Be your best friend. So now I'm back to the original kick sound. So all I'm going to do is add a little bit of reverb to some of these sounds. And this is all preference. This is the mixing part. However you want it to sound. If you want your hi-hats to be louder, make them louder. If you want your snare to be louder or quieter, make it louder or quieter. It's all preference. Mixing isn't some magical thing that takes so long to learn. Mixing is literally what the name means. It's mixing sounds. It's just there's an art to it to get it to sound pleasurable to the ear. From here, I think the next thing I'm going to do, let's add a little bit of piano in there. Now that we have this laid out, now I can manipulate it. I can drag them out to the length I want, and I can put them in the timing that I want. So now let's add a lead to this melody. So what I'm going to do to kind of match this sound is I'm just going to duplicate this tab. I can get rid of this clip, and in the new one, I can adjust some of these settings. For instance, I'll turn the tone knob up and the reverb down a little bit, and it's going to be a little sharper when I'm playing these lead notes. I turned this piano down a little bit, I've adjusted the notes, now let's give it another listen. Much cleaner than my crappy playing. Just like the drums, you can actually change these sounds on the fly too. So if you have a piano melody or some kind of synthesizer melody, guitar melody, anything, you could just lay out the melody the way you want and then change the sounds. It makes it so much easier. For example, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click on this synth lead tab, and I'm just going to click on some random sounds as the beat's playing, and we're going to see what happens. All the sounds I used just now are either stock with Ableton or they're free on the Ableton website as packs to download. So let's go ahead and add some bass. All right, we've got a little bass line added. I just followed the chord progression of the melody. So I think all we're going to do from here is maybe add in one more piano lead and maybe a synth track, and then we're going to start laying this track out in the arrangement view. I'm going to get rid of this clip, and I'm going to record another lead. All right, now let's add a synth line. Now we have enough tracks and enough loops laid out that we should be able to go over here to our arrangement view, and we should be able to piece together this track with a chorus and verse, etc. So before I go to the arrangement view, I'm going to set all of these to play. I'm going to stop it. Now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click record. So now that I've recorded it, I'm going to click this red button here to enable all of these tracks. I'm going to zoom out. Now I have all of our loops laid out nice and neat. So now I'm just going to make a quick arrangement of how I want it to sound. The cool thing about the arrangement view is that after you record your loops into here, it's pretty much drag and drop. But there are still other ways to manipulate it. So you can just take stuff out, add it in as you want, build an intro, build a chorus, build a verse, you can do a bridge. Now there's some other cool things you can do though. So for instance, if I just drag one of these loops out, this is the kick loop. If I just drag it out, it's going to endlessly loop the way that I created it. However, say I wanted to change just a piece of it. Well, I can click in here, hit Control E. Now when I double click right here, I will see what's just in this loop. So for instance, I could change just this section. So this is part of why Ableton is so cool. You can build your beats in the session view, just recording all of your loops. Simply go to the arrangement view, lay them out, and then you can arrange them in whatever order you would like. And also, you have the automation tab where you can add fades, you can fade in just volume, you can use a low pass filter. You can also just create a new track in here and add in, you can add in new loops here, or if you want to add in like risers or just, simple effects here and there, you can do that as well. Just remember, the more you get in here and the more beats you make, the more efficient you'll get at it and the more you'll learn. So let's give it a listen. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video. Hopefully you learned something. And as always, get in there and make some music. Stay positive, stay driven, get after it.